if we can go to my first slide. So just a little bit background on Frimley. We serve about 900,000 people across Berkshire, Hampshire and South Bucks. We also have diagnostic services at Aldershot, Farnham, Fleet, Windsor, Maidenhead, etc. And we create basically 144,000 tonnes of carbon each year. So as part of sustainability, it's my job to try and reduce that in line with the net zero carbon requirements of the NHS. We're looking to basically become net zero target by 90% by 2035, and reducing also harm to health from carbon emissions and environmental degradation as quickly as possible. So we looked at ways that we can do that. Next slide, please. So we have 9 green area plans of focus within our trust. Estates, travel, food, supply chain, but the one that we major on is medicines. And we looked at how we can tackle that. Next slide, please. So we went and had a look at our medicines priority green action plan, which include medicines optimization, environmental impact assessments, looking at desflurane, sovereign, and encouraging anaesthetic teams to use different types of anaesthesia. But we also looked at then doing our nitrous oxide waste audit across all trusts, and from that we looked at the maternity needed to reduce the amount of nitrous oxide emissions, and by doing that we then went and had a look at how we could do that. Next slide, please. Now I won't bore you with this slide because I'm sure many on this will have seen this 1,000,000,001 times, and can probably do it better justice than what I can. But basically on here we're looking at scope 1 for us for the anaesthesists, and it covers 7 GHGs, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous, fluorocarbons, etc. Next one, please. So from that we had a look at the carbon footprint, and as we can see that procured pharmaceuticals, equipment and everything else is larger than our energy on our building and travel and commissioned. We then had a look at how much we did trust-wise ourselves. Next slide, please. And while we've managed to reduce our desflurane, our nitrous oxide still produced through our audit quite a lot of our gas by tonnes. So 20% of the trust direct emissions from all activities, including gas, oil, was still anaesthetic and anaesthetic gas carbon emissions. When we did our audit, we looked at most of it was coming from our maternity department, and that was split 50-50 between portable cylinders and piped. I know many trusts are now going against piped and just going to cylinders, and that's something that we'd be looking at going forward ourselves. Next slide, please. Basically, as we looked at the medicines as a regional priority, and the amount of nitrous oxide we were using, and through the Entonox and the maternity department, we decided that we wanted to look for mobile destruction units. Now we've got 2 birthing centres within our trust, 3 at Wexham and 3 at Frimley. We're coming up the correct amount that we needed to order for our departments. Basically, because these are mobile, we can wheel them into the rooms as and when required. Therefore, it doesn't mean that if a lady giving birth doesn't want one in her room, it doesn't have to be there, and it gives her the option of whether she wants to do it or not. Why did we choose this? Basically because we'd already done our research and we'd looked at what had been done in Sweden and what had been done in Newcastle upon Tyne, and from those we could see that it would cut our emissions by 75% reduction in our nitrous emissions for our birthing mothers and also for our staff. So it helped created a well-being centre for them while they were giving birth. As the other speakers have alluded to, some people might be in there for 30 minutes and some mothers could be in there for at least 8 hours, if not more. So how did we manage to get our money? Next slide, please. Unfortunately, there is no golden leaf tree that you can go and take your money from. It is going to be hard work. We were lucky that we'd put a business case together, but then our CCG, within their yearly budget, had enough money to to basically fund these for us. So our job within our trust was quite easy, and we had a clear way through, but these have now changed. There is no more CCGs available. So if you go to the next slide, please. I'm not going to bore you with this, but I'm sure these slides will be released to you. So basically, the CCGs have gone and we've been replaced with ICBs, ICSs, ICPs, place and neighbourhoods. This slide is just basically showing you the relationship between them and how funding might be started in one section and or another section. Next slide, please. So as I alluded to, we got our money through the CCG, but before that we put a business case to be able to get it through to our executive and everybody else the need for these machines. Next slide, please. What we'd suggest on a business case and not a business plan is basically when you use it to go and create a business, you need to articulate what you're wanting and why you're needing it. So therefore there are steps that we need to take, and you need to understand your audience on that business case and write it in such a language. And it may be that you need one for your technical team and one for your non-technical team, just that they can understand at their level and you're not bombarding them with terminology they do not understand. In your business case, always please do put if you're going to use abbreviations, put a page in there so that people aren't sat there not understanding what you're just trying to discuss and what you're trying to get over. It confuses them and they'll just reject it straight away. So it's essential that any business case is proposed to create and your wider aims and your objectives of what you're trying to do. It's equally important that key stakeholders such as budget holders are consulted even in the first thoughts of even writing a business case. They are going to be the people who are going to back you. They are going to be the people who understand what your objectives are, and they will also be able to provide you information like Cliff has with his audits and his information. They are going to be the people that if you're heads of sustainability or your estates, you're going to go to for the information to help you. They're also going to be the guys who will put the audits in place in your trust to actually see where your requirement for these machines are. Now, there is no surefire template for any business case. Some trusts have a template that they'll expect you to write, some have none. You just want one that flows easily for what you're trying to achieve. Next slide, please. It might seem time consuming, but it's not complicated. If you get the bones down and what you're wanting to achieve, it will help you. What is the purpose of the project? Who's working on the project? What does the project connect to your organisational goals and objectives? What metrics are you going to use to measure the success of the project? Who is working on the project? When is the project going to start? When is the project going to complete? What mitigations are you going to be putting in? Make sure you pitch it right. Make sure you answer the basic questions. Don't be scared to send your business case to a number of departments and get them to answer and ask you questions so that you can include those in your business case. Biggest advice is just share advice. Go on to Futures if you're NHS. Go and speak to your anaesthesiist. Go onto the internet. Go to a number of people. They will share that advice with you. Don't be scared to ask. We're all working to a common goal. We've all got to be net zero. We've all got to reduce our emissions. Some of us are ahead of the game, some of us are in the middle of it, some of us are starting out, but we all started. We were all that learner driver at one point, and we're all know where you've been. We've all gone through the bad and the good times, and we're happy to help. Next slide, please. So as Cliff said before, make sure as part of your business case you include a period of data, audit, analysis. It can be time consuming, but if you get it right and you do it, then you're going to be able to make your business case more inclusive. And you'll also look at the SMART objectives. Be specific, be measurable, be achievable, realistic and timely. Benefits are also associated with costs, but there are also risks. Make sure you answer those risks. Don't be scared to not include your risks in your business case and how you're going to mitigate, because sometimes that becomes a benefit as well. Also, analyse your quantitative and your qualitative outcomes and present these differences that you've made. Next slide, please. Now you can do a comprehensive audit, which includes everything and anything on your medical gases, like this one that the BOC do. You don't have to go to the BOC. You can do just a nitrous oxide audit, but if you're looking at all of your gases, it may be worth actually going and doing one of these full audits and actually having them look at your cylinders, your pipe network, your emergency, your manual handling, making sure that your cylinders aren't half full when they're going back and that you're wasting all that nitrous. You've got to work smart. Next slide, please. I think these have already been covered by my colleagues. So one of the questions you'll probably get asked is, why do we not simply stop using nitrous? I think my colleagues have covered that a lot better than what I have, so I'm not going to go back over that one. Next slide, please. Why did we use Medicare? Because the machines are removable. They're not a static scavenger unit that you put into your room. They can be moved into each of your rooms. So if you're looking at maternity and endoscopy, it may be that you have set hours when endoscopy might be being used, and you can give a couple of machines over to them and then they come to maternity afterwards. We chose maternity because that's where most of our nitrous is used, and as I said before, they can be used for up to 8 hours a day, or for the average length of a child. That's equivalent to driving 600 miles in your car, unlike me who drives a Land Rover, and that would probably be only 200 miles. There's been several studies, like I said, that you can use in your business case. There's BMJ, there's so much out there. Next slide, please. And if I haven't bored you enough and you want some bedtime reading on how to undertake a business case, there is also the Treasury Department and the government, which has a document there that will help you go to sleep if nothing else does. Next slide, please. And that's the end of my presentation.